there's something about Geri's game that, on the one hand, really frustrated me, but on the other hand, I thought was a genius decision because there's no real narrative here, or the message that it's trying to convey is so unclear, it's basically absent. And on the one hand, it annoyed me because I thought, well, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to do? What is the message you're trying to deliver? On the other hand, I thought this is brilliant because a viewer can interpret it any way they want. Personally, and I will, in fact, I will say how I interpret it once I've kind of discussed what it's about without giving any spoilers, but because there's no real, I mean, there is a narrative development, but because the message isn't clear, I'm not going to spoil any big reveal or anything. But I will talk about what I perceived it as, what people on the internet have, and why maybe not having a clear message can sometimes be a good thing. Because usually, when you create a film, you're doing it because you have a story to tell or a message to convey. And with this one, yes, there is a story, but the why is not that clear. This was released in 1997, written and directed by Jan Pinkava, and we have Bob Peterson is the voice of our character Geri. Geri later appeared in Toy Story 2, which I did not pick up on, but the internet was able to tell me this, and it's true. Geri is an elderly man. He is in a park playing a game of chess by himself. And as it develops over the course of the 5 minutes, he suddenly begins to play against himself. There are two Geris on the screen, either side of the chessboard, and each one represents a different tactic. One's much more aggressive and kind of storming through the game. The other one's using creative thinking and clever tactics. And we watch the game of chess unfold. And I won't say who wins or how it concludes because that would spoil that bit. But I read, I kind of Googled it and saw what other people think. Some people think nothing, they just couldn't see the point in it, which it was my initial reaction. My initial reaction was, what am I supposed to have taken from this? What's the message other than how to play chess? And also because it's a beautiful animation, I enjoyed watching it visually, but I am driven by stories. I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, that's what I like. We have a story here, but I want to know why this is particularly important. Why are we being told about this elderly man playing in a park by himself? And certain places on the internet have said that it's kind of a character study of the two different approaches to playing chess. And that makes sense when you look at which side won and how that game developed. Certainly that's one possible reason behind it. Me, I was more interested. My initial thought when I thought, well, what did I perceive? And my initial thought was this elderly man who has nobody in his life and he has to play chess by himself and he ends up almost dividing himself. Not quite split personality. I'm not, I didn't perceive that, but this elderly man maybe experiencing early onset dementia or something, not quite in tune with reality, is able to separate himself into these two people and play a game of chess and feel like it's a perfectly routine thing to do. And that's initially what I thought. And from what I could find, nobody on the internet thought that. So that was kind of just me. But if you did think that as well, please do let me know. But I would love to know, if you watched this, what your initial reaction was. Did you instantly have a perception? Because I didn't. At first, I saw a picture of an elderly man on a poster and thought, well, this is going to be depressing because short animations about elderly people usually are emotional. They usually involve morbidity and things, but not so much here. Unless, of course, you read that into this. There is a moment where he has to check his own pulse, which is not funny, but also funny. You'll know what I mean when you see it. But I'd love to know what your initial response was, how you reacted to it, and ultimately what you now think it is about. I'd love to know if there is a meaning behind it, other than here are two characters. But then if it was just a short about the two kinds of personalities playing chess, and which one certainly this director thought was the better approach to playing chess, you wouldn't need to have two versions of the same character. That seems like an unnecessary gimmick if that's the message you're trying to convey. There must be a reason why there are two Geris. And I'd love to ask the director why. What was the thought behind that decision? I'd love to know. Maybe the answer's out there in an interview or something. I didn't spend too long digging. But what I read was, interesting. It's interesting to see how other people perceive films when there's not a clear message. Because, yeah, I love films that tell us what we're meant to think and how we're meant to feel. But when it's like this, it's open to interpretation, and sure, it annoyed me to begin with, but I actually quickly made peace with that and found it to be very thought provoking.